Hello, my name is Rex and I am what they call a dead man walking. I'm just sharing this with you, my journey through cancer diagnosis and terminal diagnosis and chemotherapy and all the things around it, in the hope that it will be an encouragement to you or whoever you love who's going through an experience, a difficult experience. And just to let you know that you are not alone, and that there is a future and a hope beyond what you can see or what they can see today. So today I'm just going to share with you about travelling home from the hospital and then recovery time at home those first few days and weeks after the surgery. I had it was a large wound, around 30 centimetres or thereabouts from the big opening. A lot of people have laparoscopic surgery or something and it doesn't make quite as much damage, but when you can hardly move and you depend so much on your stomach muscles even to get out of bed or to get up out of a chair or whatever, some things can be a great help, and so I want to share some of those with you. So while I was in hospital, I was able to arrange an electric lift chair. It's just one that tips forwards as well as reclining backwards so that it gets you right up towards your standing position, and it's much easier to stand up. And also an elevating bed which tipped up the top part of it, and again it enables you to raise up a bit before getting out of bed, and it makes a huge difference if you've got a large wound in your abdominal area. I imagine it's probably the same if you've got the same in a chest area. So my son picked those up for me and put them in the house so that they were ready when I arrived home. The trip home, we have a 2012 Toyota Prius hybrid. It's got quite basic suspension, good wee car, but they do have sort of, it's that you sort of feel the bumps a bit, and Taranaki roads where we live here in New Zealand are also full of potholes, and that, so hats off to my wife for driving and trying to avoid all the potholes and the bumps on the way home. And she tried to make it as good as possible for me in any case, but nonetheless it wasn't that much fun. But once we were home, I kept on laying down those pain rails by having the acetaminophen, the paracetamol, every 5 hours, sort of from 7 a.m. through till 9 p.m. and then supplementing that with codeine. And that was enough, even despite my fears that I'd need something more powerful. It was okay. A really good tip there is if you've got a large wound, if you use a rolled up towel or a solid pillow or a cushion, just to clutch against over your wound, it can help very much during the trip home to absorb bumps without the wound feeling like it's going to burst forth. And also for things like coughing, and the very worst fear I guess that I had concerning that was sneezing. If you went to sneeze, it was a dread. It felt like everything was going to burst open when you did. So you just grab the thing to your belly, and then when you feel a sneeze or something coming on, I was a little bit naughty. They give you warnings when you've got these sorts of things, and they say you must not lift 5 kgs for the first 6 weeks, or all these different things. And I sort of thought to myself, foolishly, oh, she'll be right, I'll be able to do more than that. And I think it might have been even the day that I got home, I might have been outside and cleaning windows, just doing it very slowly and gingerly. But I think I launched into things that I probably shouldn't have straight away. And I did actually eventually pay the price, but that's another story which I'll share with you later. It happened later on. Visitors, people want to come and see you. You're out of hospital, and it was just a real blessing and very valued, but also unexpectedly just quite exhausting. You'd think that just sitting there and chatting wasn't that exhausting, but I did find it very exhausting. And my tips there, as an absolute amateur first timer, probably let people know up front a time limit and just say, hey, look, 20 minutes or whatever it may be that you can manage, And if you get to that time period and you're feeling good still, you can always say to them, hey, look, another 5 minutes or something will do fine. But you do need to conserve your energy for sleep and for healing. Mind games. I feel like once I was back home, that's when things are sort of, you're back in your usual surrounds and your mind is able to rest in one way, but then it starts going other places, not quite the same as in the hospital. And I found it was very easy to start feeling negative or sorry for myself and miserable. And I had to battle often minute to minute to correct my thoughts. And I knew that if I didn't take every thought captive, that things were going to slide. I was going to end up ruled by some unhappy thoughts, and that I might end up even depressed or something. And so in that, I depended on God, and I just asked Him to give me the strength that I needed, and He gave it to me, including the strength to control where my mind went. And He did give me that strength. He was and He is always faithful. As I was thinking, I got to thinking about the surrounding context of what had happened and the timing and everything. And one of the things that I noticed was that God's timing in it was incredibly merciful to me. I'd been able to finish a course that I've been doing for 6 months or whatever prior. It was that very day of finishing that I became incapacitated or had the real first problem that signalled that I had a problem. And we had also finished a big move, a house move, where we had been living to support our son's working opportunities, and but we had finished our move and got back home. And all these things, they could have been a big mess, and I could have lost a lot had the timing been just days different, but it wasn't. And God says that His ways are above our ways and His thoughts are above our thoughts, so much higher. And He just showed me in those little mercies how good He had been to me. As I was able to think alone much more, being up the other end of the house from everybody in the bedroom and that, it was easy for me to start fearing about the future, or to be ungrateful. And it's inevitable that these thoughts will come. They will. And it would have been really easy for me to feel like God had done me wrong. And I realized how dangerous that thought was, how quickly I would slide into something very negative if I allowed those thoughts, being entitled, thinking that I deserve better. And the truth is, of course, that every day in this life is a blessing. It is an opportunity to do right. It is an opportunity in so many ways. And not only that, but with my entitled tendency, realizing that, hey, look, God upholds not only every day, but He upholds every breath, and if He withdraws, it was God who gave the breath of life. A perfect body without the breath of life in it is a piece of meat, a very clever piece of meat, but nonetheless a dead piece of meat. And God doesn't have to give me the next breath, but He has all these years, and He still is today through this. And so there's a place where the Bible says in 1 Thessalonians 5, in everything give thanks. In everything. On your worst day, give thanks. It says, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. When we're following Christ, that's what we do. We give thanks in everything. And we don't realize how much of what we think is negative or trials is in fact doing wonderful things, not only for us, but sometimes for other people too. And what a blessing to have that privilege. So if we belong to Christ, we own every single thing that goes with that, all the blessings. And there are many, many blessings that we can be absolutely certain of. A couple that are very special to me is that we're upheld by His hand, that we are never given more than what we can take. He knows what we can take. He knows we are but dust. He never gives us more than we can take, and he works all things together for our good is another one of these precious promises, and for the good of all those who love him. And so, yeah, he is amazing, and all these promises go with if we turn to him and belong to him. So I just want to share another little thing with you. It's about the injections that I had to take every day, and a little tip in case you would find that difficult. So I'm going to lower the camera. I'm going to show you my fat belly, and I'll show you something about these injections and a couple of tips for making them a lot easier, or at least what seemed to make it easier for me. So that's down there. All right, we can see the object. So there's so this is my stoma bag. It is where my stomach actually comes out through the wall, and that's instead of going out through my backside. And you can see my wound there, which is sort of goes from there to there, and it's about 30 centimeters or thereabouts. You can see where it's sort of they cut the belly button in two, so I've got two sort of semi-belly buttons in there, and and so one of the things I had to do was to do daily injections, and this to stop blood clotting. And I want to show you a couple of tips that I found really helpful to minimise any potential pain, and also to and to help just make it easier for me. So what I would do was I'd have as if that was the needle. I would just touch. I'd bare the needle, pull the tip off, and I'd just touch the needle to my skin just gently, and if I could feel the sharpness of it, I'd just move a little bit, just sort of just even a quarter of a centimetre, and I keep going. Yeah, can feel that, touch again, can't feel that. And what I did was, when I couldn't feel it, I just went boom, gave it a push, and it was straight in, and then I could squeeze the thing in, push the things in, keeping the pressure inwards a bit so that the needle didn't come out via the contents pressure as you put it in. And that worked really well for me. I don't know if scientifically it's true that if you don't get the pain on the surface of the skin that you don't feel it as it goes in, but for me it felt like the pain was only when you're at the first part of the pushing in, and not as the needle went deeper than skin deep. And the other thing that I did that was helpful, at first when I tried it, I'd inject probably pretty much in the same place, and before long I started getting sort of a little bit of bruising or stuff or bleeding out of the hole that I'd just done it in. And so what I started doing was just moving it, a little bit further from day to day, just to make sure that I went in other places and not the same area every day. And I think that helped as well. I didn't tend to get the bleeding after I'd withdrawn the little needle either. And so I feel very cringy about that sort of stuff, very squeamish. And so if you are feeling squeamish, I just want to let you know that it's possible to do it. And while it might not be the fun part of your day, it certainly was my probably least favourite part of the day. It was okay. And so just recapping from today, there's some good things you can do, things to hold over your wound, a towel, a scrunched up towel or a cushion. It's going to be hard when you get home. I think that's when a lot of the matters of the mind start to emerge, and so you need something to hold fast and to prosper in those times. And hopefully that is a good tip about the injections if you're having to take those anti-clotting injections. But I guess my big take home is that the biggest struggle that I found after I was home is that it was the battle of the mind. If I didn't have the peace of God and the assurance of all the things that He promises me, I don't know how I would face this sort of stuff. I really don't. And I look at people around me now, and I actually see a lot more of the terror and the darkness of what the experience has been for them as I look into their eyes. And look, there is a solution. There is a way. There's someone who loves us. We've got a Father in heaven, and He loves us. He's not willing that we should perish. And lots of promises that are ours. He'll never test us above what we're able. He is He is a perfect Father, not like earthly fathers that fail and abuse or mistakenly hurt, despite their best intentions sometimes. And God gives us a peace. It promises in His Word, the Bible, that is above all human understanding. He will guard our hearts and minds. And so the way there is to belong to Christ. And I'll tell you separately a bit more about how to do that. But any day you can reach out to God. You can say, I know you're there. Show yourself to me. And start reading His Word. Maybe the book of John is a good place to read, to start to learn about Jesus, who is the exact representation of God, the Father. All right. Much love to you, and we'll look forward to catching up with you next time.